Update: my 26-meet girlfriend, 25F, has grown distant. After I got beat up, defending a group of girls being harassed. First of all, I want to thank every single one of you who commented on my last post. The love and support I received were immense and actually made me feel a little better amidst all the chaos. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. All of the following happened yesterday, so excuse me if I ramble a bit. It's all fresh in my mind. Original post. I have been with my girlfriend Sarah for 3 years and have been living together for 1.5 years. She is honestly everything I have ever wanted, and I am planning on proposing sometime next year. 3 weeks ago, I was out with Sarah at a local bar, drinking and having a great time, as it was just after quarantine had ended where I live. Around 3 a.m., we decided to head home. As we headed to the parking lot where we had parked, we noticed a group of 2 girls and a guy who was clearly drunk, trying to hit on them and get them to go to his house. The girls were visibly uncomfortable and trying to find a way out. Sarah told me that we had to do something, and I told her to call the cops and get someone else, because the last thing I wanted was for her to get hurt. So I approached the group and pretended to be the boyfriend of one of the girls. Long story short, I got beat up. The guy was at least 6'4" and 220 lbs, whereas I'm 5'11" and 167 lbs. I'm fairly muscular myself, but there was no way I could have taken someone that big. I knew it from the start. Fortunately, the noise we made drew a lot of people to the scene, and the girls got away safely. I was rushed to the ER because the guy had broken my ribs, which punctured my right lung. After that incident, Sarah grew distant from me. Even though she visited and stayed with me at the hospital, she hasn't been the same since. I thought she just needed time to move past this. However, 5 days ago, she told me that she is not the same person after what happened, and she doesn't know if she feels safe with me after I got beat up like that. Honestly, hearing that hurt me more than when I got my ribs broken. She has moved to her parents for the time being and told me she needs time. Meanwhile, I had no one to help me, so my brother left his family to move in with me. I know I'm just venting at this point, but I don't want this to be over like this. Reddit, is there anything I can do to salvage the situation? Update. Until yesterday, it had been 14 days since my last contact with Sarah. My brother had left 4 days prior because I felt bad keeping him away from his family for so long. Plus, I could take care of myself to some extent. Around 2 p.m. while I was making lunch, I heard the doorbell ring. I opened the door, and there she was. Sarah, with tears in her eyes, eye bags, frizzy hair, looking like a total mess. During the time we've been together, I've seen her in her ups and downs, but I'd never seen her in such a horrible state before. So I let her in. She sat on the couch. We hadn't still said a word as we were both dumbfounded. I was so overwhelmed by emotions. I wanted to hug her. I wanted to lash out. I didn't even know what I wanted to do. So I did nothing and waited for her to talk. After 5 or 10 minutes of silence, she started sobbing and then full-on crying. At this point, I could barely hold myself together. So I held her hand and tried to calm her down so I could figure out what was going on. After a while, she finally somewhat calmed down and started talking. And that's when it got bad. Something that I didn't include in the original post because it wouldn't have made sense is that Sarah's mother has been divorced and remarried once. From what Sarah has told me, her biological father cheated on her mother while she was still a kid, and that's why they broke up. That's also why she doesn't have any kind of relationship with her father. It seemed odd when I first learned about it, but I didn't question it. That is not the whole story, though. Sarah's biological father didn't only cheat on her mother. He was a drug addict who also used to beat her up frequently. Without getting into a lot of graphic detail, in one instance when Sarah's brother tried to intervene and protect her mother, he ended up getting beat up too. So when she saw me intervening and getting beaten up in the bar incident, it triggered some kind of PTSD in her head that she could not control. That's why she had grown distant and eventually left. It all spiraled out of control, and she could not handle it. In those 2 weeks we'd been apart, she'd barely eaten or slept, and even had some really dark thoughts, which I'd rather not go into. She told me she's a horrible girlfriend for leaving me alone in my condition and that she doesn't expect us to be together again after that, which I told her isn't the case. So we have a very long road ahead of us. My number one priority right now is getting her to see a therapist.